Good morning, Leigh from the Hidden Why podcast here. This is something I haven't done before, I don't regularly do, but I thought I'd give it a crack and just test this out. Now, I'm here in front of my recording device and I use a Yeti camera microphone, and I also got the GarageBand open here on my MacBook Pro. I'm about to update my computer because this one's getting a bit old, it's making a bit of noise. But I just thought I'd test this out. I'm recording this from my new camera here, and I'm going to record today a podcast reflection. So typically with this podcast reflection thing, I have in the past written down a script and sort of read from a script. But more recent times, I've just reviewed a podcast based on how I feel about it and what I think about it, without going too much into scripts and dialogues. I just go with the flow. So that's what I'm doing this morning, and I thought I would just record this, and perhaps I'll share it on Facebook at some point as well. So here we go. I've got the everything else set up, ready to go. All we need to do is press record and we can go with it. Hope you enjoy. G'day and welcome to the Hidden Why podcast, guys. I have a short, snappy podcast reflection to do today. And it's a newer podcast addition to the podcast collection on my Samsung phone here. And it is called Marathon Training Academy. It is hosted by Angie Spencer and Trevor. I don't actually have his surname, but look, these two are quite comfortable to listen to. I actually do enjoy listening to them babble on and rant, but they actually provide a lot of motivation and even education for those people that aren't really that familiar with marathon running, like myself. I am certainly not a marathon guru. I've never ran a marathon before, but in recent months, or probably this year really, I've had this strange feeling or idea like it might be a good idea to run a marathon. I think next weekend, the 13th of October, I will do my first half marathon, which I haven't actually signed up for. So that's a good bit of encouragement to sign up for that half marathon. I love running, and this podcast certainly provides not only the education to running, but also the motivation to do it. And as it says in their little podcast spiel, it's not just for expert runners to get the insights as to what sort of marathons are happening around the world, or what are the new, tech upgrades that you can do to help you on your marathoning journey. It's actually for newbies as well. And there's a lot of different material in this podcast, which I really like. The podcast at the moment, I believe, is released once a week, which is great. So you're not overwhelmed by information. You can just tune in once a week. If it's a topic of interest, you can stay listening. If it's not, like all podcasts, you can just put it in the bin and wait until the next episode. They do usually start off with Angie and Trevor giving a bit of an update on what's happening in their schedule and what they're doing, which is quite interesting as well. And then they'll either bring on a guest or talk about something that's marathon running related. Recently, I listened to an episode about, what to eat, like the snacks and foods and stuff that you can eat along your marathons. Now, that's something that, as a non-marathon runner, I wouldn't think about. I would just go out there and run. But, importantly, when you're running those distances, the body's going to feel the impact more. So it's important to nourish it and replenish it with liquids and foods and proteins. So it's really quite interesting. And they go into depth about the different varieties of snacks and foods you can eat, but also pre-preparation, what to do before, what to eat before, if you should eat before, and all the way to, what shoes you should wear and things like that. So they're really fascinating, insightful episodes. I really enjoy them. Some episodes here don't really get too much out of. I'm always inspired to hear about some of the stories, the marathoning stories, because when you think of a marathon runner, you think of these people that just go out there and run and they're really into their fitness and all that sort of stuff. But as I listen more, there's actually some interesting runs out there that seem like a lot of fun. And I don't know whether it's the right thing or not, but certainly people going out there and doing these marathons and then chugging a lot of beer at the end of it or something like that, or having a big night before it and then trying to do one seems pointless to me, but it seems crazy, and each to their own, I suppose. So it's not just this marathon world of these ultra fit superstars. Certainly there's that part of it, but I think there's a lot of fun to be had by running as well. And actually a good book, which I have reviewed, is called Born to Run, and it's a similar sort of book, I suppose. It's quite inspirational, quite motivational, but it also provides a lot of educational insight as to why perhaps humans are born to run. So it's one to check out. Check out Born to Run, one of my book reviews done at thehiddenwhy.com. So anyway, going into these guys, they have a bit of a story that's written up on their website, which is the Marathon Training Academy. So it's marathontrainingacademy.com. And you can have a little bit of a read about their story. They've got a unique story. She's a nurse, and she moved across country, I believe, and then felt that she was underfit. So she wanted to get back into her fitness, and she signed up for her first marathon and has never looked back. But she actually, in that first marathon, ran it and pushed through. And she did actually, I think, a good time, 4 hours and 10 minutes. Now, I don't know, but I think if you could do under 4 hours, that's probably pretty good for a marathon time. I would be happy to do under 5, to be honest. But look, I mean, she did that marathon and she said she was riddled with injuries. And so that sort of led her on this Marathon Training Academy journey where she's created a website and a podcast to share what she went out then to learn to help improve not only her running, but how she felt after it. And she's gone on to run something like 60 marathons with less and less injuries. So it's a really inspirational story. It just goes to show that, anyone could go out there and start this if they really want to. Trevor himself is the tech guy. Apparently was just, always behind the desk, behind the computer, never ran a marathon in his life. And now he's definitely a motivated marathon runner. So he's got a bit of a story and a spiel there as well. So it's interesting. These two guys have come from a, humble background, I guess, like myself, that haven't really done these marathons before. And now they're sharing this inspiration with us. So again, these, they've had their past too. And I guess we have to look at where they started if you're just starting out. But if you're a marathon runner, equally, I think there's a lot of great inspiration and guidance within these episodes, especially when they bring on some of these marathon running guests who have done incredible feats. They've run incredible marathons, but they also know a heck of a lot about the sport and the ins and outs. So it's a really good guide for anyone running marathons, whether you're a beginner or whether you're an advanced marathon runner. I just want to quickly share a bit of a background to my story. Now, I started running. I never really loved running. I used to hate going to sports days in primary school. In high school, I refused to go. Never was a runner at all. And then in late high school, I started getting into my fitness a little bit. Now, I was a bit of a chubby kid, and I started to run. I think I probably ran about 500 meters or 1,000 meters, and I thought it was like the longest distance ever. It felt really hard and uncomfortable, but I went out and there, did it very inconsistently. But each time I did it, I felt really good about it afterwards. I felt very proud of myself for doing it. And I don't know if it's pride so much as attached to an ego, because I know pride's sort of an affliction and can be something that you don't want to carry too much of. But I think it was more so that I was going out there and running, and the feeling that it gave me, the happiness that it gave me from running, gave me that sense of pride perhaps. And that's really what I get out of running now. So I inconsistently ran back then. I then went to university and started getting into it again. And I used to run around a block or two. And it was probably, again, only about a 15-minute run. It's quite hilly, but it was still, a short run in the sense of things. But it just felt good. So I did that a little bit more consistently. And from there, it's just gradually built up. There was times where I just let it slip and it didn't happen again, to now where I really absolutely love getting out there and going for a run. It's a routine that you get into. And I think with routines, if you can really get into a solid exercise routine, whether that's running, swimming, jogging, biking, whatever it might be, if you can really get into that routine, even though in those days where you don't really feel like it and you wake up, with that lack of motivation, it's hard to break that routine. So that's the importance of having a good routine in anything in life, but definitely with exercise as well. So running is one of those things that absolutely fill me with joy now. And yes, it's still hard to put on those shoes and go for a run sometimes. Yes, it's always a little bit painful. But once you're on that one and run, and more importantly, when you finish that run, it feels freaking fantastic. So look, I don't know if I'll be a hardcore, dedicated marathon runner going forward. I would certainly like to tick that box and have it crossed off the bucket list at some stage. But if you are at all interested in marathon running, whether you're a newbie or an advanced marathon runner, I would highly recommend you check out this podcast. That's a bit of an extended review of this podcast, but I hope you've enjoyed. I've actually recorded this on my video as well, so it might be live on YouTube or Facebook at some stage as well. Guys, check it out at thehiddenwhy.com. The links to the podcast and the Marathon Training Academy website is in the show notes at episode 833. Until next time, peace, passion, and purpose. See you soon. There you go. That's it. Done.